Okay, we're live. I would like to introduce Joe Edge, candidate for mayor of Port St Lucie. Joe is a U.S. Navy veteran and a resident of Port St Lucie since 1990. Joe is a small business owner, building his business over the past 24 years right here in Port St Lucie. This is the first in a series of YouTube videos where Joe will address important issues to the taxpayers and residents of the city. Joe, could you take a minute and tell us a little something about yourself?
Hi, my name's Joe Edge, and I'm a candidate for mayor right here in Port St Lucie. I'm a single father. I have two young boys, 34 years old. My son Richard, he lives in Virginia, and my son Stephen, who's 37, with his wife and my gorgeous granddaughter, live right here in Port St Lucie.
How old's your granddaughter, Joe?
She's 2 years old, just turned 2 on April 20th. Thank you.
Wow, fantastic. Okay, why are you running for mayor?
Like many others in this city, I have a vision of a great city. Port St Lucie is a great city, and I want to be part of how it grows and be able to help with the direction it grows in.
All right, could you tell us, have you ever served in the military?
Yes, sir. I was when I graduated high school in 1976, I went right in the U.S. Navy. July of 1976, I went to boot camp in Orlando, Florida. From there, I went to A school and right to a place called Holyloch, Scotland, where I spent almost 10 years of my career with a short stint in New London, Connecticut. The whole time I served aboard submarine tenders.
Oh, okay. So you were in the military for 10 years, you said. So after you got out of the military, did you move right to, here to Port St. Lucie, or did you go someplace else first?
I spent 5 years in Virginia Beach, Virginia, working for U.S. Navy defense contractors, basically doing the same thing that I did when I was in the Navy, teaching financial management skills to the men and women of the U.S. Navy. In 1990, June of 1990, I moved here to Port St. Lucie.
Okay. So you moved here, and it was after 5 years, but you were actually, from what I gathered, you were actually teaching financial management skills. That seems like that's an important thing to know if you're going to run a city. Well, then let me ask you this. The city has very critical issues facing us today. What would you say would be one of those, or the most critical issue that you could define right now?
One of the things we have to do as a city is be able to be respected and have a sense of integrity when we have to deal with entities outside of our boundaries. I would say overall is we have to develop and maintain that sense of integrity and respect with people in the county and our neighboring cities to help grow the city of Port St. Lucie and be part of that big team.
Would you say that your experience in the military would help you to be a better leader?
Absolutely. One of my many accomplishments in the military was my advancement cycle. The first chance I got to advance to the next pay grade, I always made it. I was an E6 when I got out of the Navy, and leadership, the leadership role that you learn in the military is something I could bring to the table in the office of mayor. The office of mayor is a leadership role, and a successful mayor has to portray that daily. If you think like a leader every day, you're going to act like a leader.
Oh, okay. And how do you see your role as mayor?
One of the other things I learned in the Navy was I was a problem solver in my dealings in the financial areas of the Navy. I see the role of mayor as a problem solver. Residents come to me, they're going to ask me to help me fix their problem, and that's what I've got to do. It's not about being a politician, it's about being a problem solver.
Okay. And speaking about problems, every city has every city nationally has issues with finances and budgets. And you seem to have a great background in that area based on your actually profession, really. So what is your take on the issues relating to how the city manages its finances?
Well, we have to get back to basics. We have to learn how to spend money responsibly, and we have to remember whose money that is. It doesn't belong to us as elected officials. It belongs to the taxpayers, and we need to remember that every day.
So where does that money come from that runs the city?
Majority of the money comes from property taxes, and property taxes are a function of property values. When property values are low, property tax revenue is low. When property tax revenue is low, we have budget problems, and we can't afford that anymore.
Okay, so where do the homeowners actually fit into that equation?
To homeowners in our city, when they bought their home, that's probably the single biggest investment they will make in their lifetime. We have to respect that and realize how important that is to those homeowners. We have an obligation to preserve and maintain property values. When property values go up proportionately throughout the city, we all prosper from that, and that's what I'm looking at.
Okay, so what should we do about those properties that have a negative impact on the property values?
Well, property owners, whether it's individuals, banks, or companies, need to be held responsible for what's wrong with their property, and they need to address the issue aggressively and get the matter resolved. Right now, we have over 7,000 abandoned or properties in some form of foreclosure, and we need to whittle that number down as small as we can, and we will all see a benefit to that when property values go up.
So then, when you say these are like properties that are in foreclosure, we're referring to the bank-owned properties as well, and I'm assuming you would also address that issue with the banks, making sure that they also maintain those properties until they're sold. Is that correct?
Absolutely. The banks, just like any other homeowner, they have to be held responsible. And we need to make sure that that happens, because at the end of the day, it's all about what our neighborhoods look like and whether or not we're going to be able to attract people that want to live in Port St Lucie because it's a great place to live, not just because we have the cheapest property values or the cheapest home values.
So what do you foresee as the issue of property values? In other words, could you sum this all up?
Well, we need to make sure that our neighborhoods, our main thoroughfares, are aesthetically pleasing. So when new residents and business owners drive down streets, they see a great city like we know Port St Lucie is.
Okay, well, this is very interesting, and I think it's very helpful for the potential voters to hear your points of view on this.
Absolutely.
So I would like to wrap this up by saying this is the first in a series of YouTube videos where Joe will address critical issues of the city and his vision on what you can expect from him once elected. I would like to thank you for taking the time to watch this video. If you have any questions or any comments, feel free to email Joe at joe@edgeformayor.com. And if you look below the video, we're going to include that link as well. So once again, thank you for watching, and watch for more videos. If you email Joe, he'll even tell you when they're going to be up next. Thanks again. Have a great day.
Thank you, Rob.